Hi, welcome to part 2 of our Haunting Atmosphere queue. Remember, there are loads more videos like this somewhere on a playlist over there. If you're interested, like and subscribe, always appreciated as always. Now, what we've got from part 1 is this whole bunch of stuff. I'm going to hide the description, and what I need to do is get to about 1 minute 32 minutes. We've got 30 seconds of music so far, so I'm thinking this is going to repeat 3, maybe 4 times. We need to have a build-in and an outro and possibly some sort of sting ending that sits on its own as well, and a bit of a breakdown change of sound in the middle with some edit points. So that's what we're aiming for. I'm going to work on the intro first. So let me go and have a play around with moving some of these things in and out, and I'll see you when I've done that. So I thought I'd just stop there for a second while I was doing this. I've copied out the same section an extra couple of times, but what I realised after muting some things was the cello and the bass were actually quite loud, and what I've done is added automation, and I thought it might be interesting to show you how I add that automation. So I've got my controllers for expression and dynamics. I'm going to put it on this murmurations track because at the moment they're quite loud. And they do build a little bit, and they sort of take over the sound. What I need to do is shape that into more what I've done with the cello and the bass here now. Which slowly build. If you need to check the automation, you go onto the specific region or track. So if I want to look at the bass information, for example, we change that to region, and I can look at the modulation that I've put on, or indeed the expression. Those are controlling the dynamics there. I'm about to do it for murmurations, and the way I go about it is make sure the tracks you want are soloed or the other ones are muted. And I'm going to, in Logic, change this from read mode to latch mode. This means I can press record and it's going to record my movements on the expression and dynamics controllers and record them over the top. So you should see it being automatically added. And what I'm trying to do is build these in and out as we go along these first 4 bars. So let's have a go at that. Okay, there you go. Simple as that. The only thing to remember is make sure you take it back into read mode when you've finished, otherwise you could accidentally end up overwriting what you've just done. It's also worth noting that you can go in and now edit this with the pencil tool if you need to change any of those modulations, but it's the quickest way of getting the information in, I find. Right, I'm going to carry on doing that to build up even bigger through this second half. Okay, so I've done the automation on the first 2 copies of that section that we were working on. I've also decided to bring in the rhythmic elements one at a time. So we've got mosaic bass building in first, and then oblivion comes in, and I have automated the volumes so they are not a sudden shock as they come in, all building to this crescendo at the end of what is effectively the second section. But as you can see, what I've done now, I don't need these all in solo mode because that's the way I was working to isolate things. But what I have done is now removed the sections that I don't want. So that now makes it possible to play back from the beginning as a whole piece. So it now starts. I've also turned down things like the wood mallet. If you look in the mixer, you'll see I've gone through and changed some of the levels here. Now some of these will be automated because we've done that with our automation, obviously. So you'll start to see the fader for Mosaic Hollow start to creep up now. So now I need to work out how to get back into this final section with everything going on again. I'm probably going to need to change that up a little bit because it's very similar to how we end that first section now. So I'm going to think about some other instruments we might want to add in now. Normally I would say we'll stick with what we've got, but because this is such a nice build now, I think there is room to add something extra which may fill in this little gap here. I'll obviously extend it so it's not quite such a little gap and see when I've done that. Okay, let me fill you in on what I've been filling in the middle. I've just done a bit of chromatic motion on the cello going around the C. I've kept the bass sticking to that C root note. The biggest change is the Oblivion pedal note that we've got going on. I have turned this more lo-fi, and later on we go to these sort of sounds and build towards the end. The Kepler Orchestra is following along chromatically. Mosaic bass is playing intermittent notes this time, and I've kept in some vocal effects and reverses to the end. This end section is now pretty much finished. As it comes to an end, I want to have a sting ending right there, which will stand on its own and could be used at any point. So I'm going to have to keep it in our original C key. We might put in the sharp 4, might do 2 of them, one with and one without. I'll see how it goes. See you in a sec. And there you have it. We're up to 2 minutes and I've just put a sting ending on here, which basically goes to the C chord. So after the fill, we've got this small gap for an editor, and then technically they could take that and probably fit it onto a lot of the places that come before. Okay, that's the end of part 2. Like and subscribe, always appreciated. I'll see you in part 3 when we mix and master this into its final form. See you in the next one.